30 important facts about Israel. Israel, officially the State of Israel, is a country in Western Asia. It has an area of 20,770 square km. Jerusalem is its capital and largest city. Hebrew is the official language of Israel and New Shekel, ILS, is its official currency. It shares its land border with 4 countries: Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, and Egypt. The Mediterranean Sea is the western border of Israel. The citizens or permanent residents of the State of Israel are called Israelis. Israel is located on the continent of Asia. Israel is a small but diverse country in the Middle East with many attractions for tourists, including its temperate climate, many beaches, and archaeological, historical, and biblical sites of interest. With these 30 facts about Israel, let's discover more about its history, culture, people, economy, conflict with Palestine, the Jews, and Judaism. Part 2. Hope you see the previous part of the video. Let's get started. 31. Jerusalem is the capital city of Israel. 32. Total area of Israel is 20,770 square kilometers. 33. The Israeli government adopts the law of return in 1950, stating that every Jew had the right to come to this country as an immigrant. They declare Jerusalem as their capital. 34. Israel population is 8,675,475. 35. Israel's official language is Hebrew and Arabic. 36. The Six-Day War is fought in 1967 between Israel and Egypt, Syria, and Jordan. Afterward, Israel now includes double its land, along with the West Bank, the Gaza Strip, the Golan Heights, and the Sinai Peninsula. In 1973, Egypt and Syria began airstrikes against Israel on Yom Kippur, its holy day. The fighting ends in 2 weeks with a UN resolution. 37. In 1977, Egyptian President Anwar Sadat meets with Israeli Prime Minister Menachem Begin in Jerusalem for peace talks. They continue with President Jimmy Carter at Camp David in 1978, and the framework for peace in the Middle East is established. Sadat and Begin shared the Nobel Peace Prize that year. By March 1979, the Egypt-Israel Peace Treaty is signed and Israel agrees to withdraw from the Sinai. Egypt agrees to allow Israeli ships free passage through the Suez Canal and to establish diplomatic relations with them. Egypt is kicked out of the Arab League and Sadat is assassinated. 38. Neighbor countries or borders of Israel are Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, and Egypt. 39. In 1987, a Palestinian uprising against Israeli rule in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank is known as the Intifada begins. The Palestine Liberation Organization or PLO was formed in 1964. The PLO accepts 2 UN resolutions: to recognize Israel as a sovereign country and to renounce terrorism. In 1991, the Madrid Peace Conference is organized by the US and attended by Middle East heads of state. In 1993, PLO leader Arafat and Israeli Prime Minister Rabin shake hands on a Middle East peace agreement. In 1994, they share the Nobel Peace Prize. Rabin is assassinated in 1995. 40. In 2003, Palestinian and Israeli leaders agree to the broad outlines of President George W. Bush's roadmap to peace, but fighting continues to the present. 41. Palestinian Arabs deliberately targeted Jewish civilians in 1920-21 in violent riots in Jaffa and Jerusalem. More than 85 Jews were massacred in several locations in 1929. The Black Hand, the first Palestinian terror organization and a forerunner to the PLO, carried out attacks against Jews in the early 1930s. During the 1936–39 Arab Revolt, violence against Jewish civilians in Palestine was widespread. 42. Israel's official currency is New Shekel, ILS. 43. In 1947, the UN voted to partition not only the State of Israel but also the British Mandate of Palestine, in recognition that both Arabs and Jews had legitimate claims to the land. Israel then, and repeatedly since, accepted the two-state solution with an internationally administered zone in Jerusalem. The Arab population refused and rioted. In 1948, the Palestinians ambushed and destroyed a medical convoy and the civilians with it. The Arab-Israeli conflict is, at heart, about the existence of Israel and not about the occupation. 44. Since the founding of the PLO in 1964, leader Yasser Arafat repeatedly stated his goal was the complete elimination of the State of Israel. Following him, the leaders of Hezbollah and Hamas in Palestine, along with Iranian President Ahmadinejad, continued with the same aim, to destroy Israel entirely. To this day, the Palestinian media announces this goal repeatedly and the conflict continues. During the Six-Day War, schools, children were massacred. 11 Israeli athletics were killed at the 1972 Olympic Games. 45. War, terrorist acts, retaliation, and acts of violence have been ongoing for more than 4 decades. Suicide bombings began in 1989 and continue to this day. In recent years, the shelling of Israeli targets has been done. Palestinians terrorists have their military targets embedded within civilian centers to increase the amount of collateral damage from any retaliatory strikes and swing public opinion away from Israel. 46. Notable in the midst of all the conflict are the two countries that have forged lasting peace accords with Israel and established diplomatic relationships with the State of Israel. The nations of Egypt and Jordan are the only ones. 47. The Jews are an ethnoreligious group originating from the Hebrews, or Israelites. The Jewish people's nationhood, religion, and ethnicity are strongly interrelated. Judaism is their traditional faith, but its observance may vary from strict observance to no observance at all. 48. Israel is the only Jewish state in the world. The Jewish people have maintained an unbroken presence there for well over 3,000 years. Its historical and archaeological sites testify to Jewish life through the centuries. Even the Quran refers to the Jews as the children of Israel. The land of Israel is central to Judaism as the land God gave to them. 49. Historically, from the time of Abraham for about 1,500 years, having a Jewish father made someone a Jew. For the following 1,900 years, having a Jewish mother made someone a Jew. That rule has changed in the last 20 years. Now, if you are Orthodox or conservative, you are a Jew if your mother is Jewish. If you are a Reform or Reconstructionist Jew, you are Jewish if either parent is. You are born a Jew and no one can take that away from you. 50. The Yiddish language has been a part of Jewish identity for over 1,000 years. Yiddish is used by Orthodox Jews worldwide and is Haredi Judaism's first language of the home, school, and in many social settings. It is also used in Hasidic yeshivas. 51. Today there are around 14,500,000 Jewish people in the world. 52. Judaism is the religion, culture, philosophy, and way of life of the Jewish people. An ancient monotheistic religion, Judaism is the 10th largest religion in the world. Judaism is the expression of the covenantal relationship God has established with the children of Israel. 53. In Judaism, religion and life are one. They cannot be separated. There are celebrations and holidays throughout the year, like Passover, Rosh Hashanah, and Yom Kippur. Judaism and the Jews use the lunar calendar in which the new year comes as early as August through October. In Israel on Yom Kippur, all stores are closed and there is no traffic as everyone stays home to celebrate. When a Jewish boy turns 13 or a Jewish girl turns 12, they celebrate their bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah, which is a rite of passage into adulthood. Other holidays include the Sabbath, the festival of booths, Hanukkah, and Purim. 54. Judaism has developed different sects and faith expressions over time. These include conservative, Orthodox, Hasidic, and Reformed Judaism. The Star of David is the religious symbol of Judaism. The brimless skullcap worn in temple, and at all times by some men, is a kippah, and a prayer shawl is called a Tallit. 55. A kosher diet involves eating according to dietary laws found in the Torah. Kosher means fit for use, and as it relates to food, it means not only eating according to the prescribed biblical code but also with reverence for all life and the connection between what we eat and how we act in the world. 56. Different foods go with different Judaic holidays and celebrations. For Passover dinner, Jews still eat crispy flatbread called matza. The bread made for the Sabbath dinner is called challah. 57. Israel national colors is blue and white. 58. Israel exports machinery and equipment, software, cut diamonds, agricultural products, chemicals, textiles, and apparel. 2017 est. 59. Israel calling code is +972. 60. Israel's $100 billion economies are larger than all its abutting neighbors combined. It has the highest standard of living in the Middle East. It also has the highest per capita home computer ownership. Hope you like this video. Subscribe for more informative videos.